Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Elizabeth Escobar, where on this channel you're going to find everything that has to do with faith, family, and fun. And so today I wanted to share just a quick encouragement, something that happened to me very recently, related to really the inspiration for starting this. So I think I mentioned in one of my previous videos that my husband and my family, our two children, we just recently relocated here to Oregon, the Portland area, from Southern California, and it's been quite an adjustment. It's been only about a little bit over a month, but anyhow, part of adjustment is finding a new church community. And we had a fabulous, incredible church community back home, Freedom House. If you are in the Orange County area, go check it out. Right now, So we've been on the hunt for a new church home, and so I attended recently a service, one of these Sundays, where none other than Christine Caine was speaking at that service, and I was so inspired by her. I mean, she's always so inspirational to me. One of like today faith hero type women, right? And I not only went once, but I went twice. I went to the evening service as well, and that evening they had a time of worship at the altar call, and it was a time the pastor had said, he's like, this is time to respond. Now it's time to respond. You know, there was this amazing word that Christine gave about what it looks like to live a life with that scripture from the book of Micah, where it talks about, I just remember it from one of those songs. What is it? I think is it Mercy Me? No. Seek justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. Seek justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God. It's not Mercy Me. But anyways, it'll come to me. So that's the scripture. And so she really unpacked that in her preaching, and just having this beautiful moment with God, just in worship. And I was with my sister-in-law. We were sitting up at the balcony because it was packed. And I happened to look down, and so there's people just in, having a moment with God. And then I see this young gal in one of the aisles, and she was just doing like this interpretive dance, basically, just like dancing before the Lord. And honestly, it had been a long time since I had seen something like that. I grew up in Pentecostal church. My parents to this day are still pastors, and I mean, that was kind of like a typical thing, you just express yourself in worship, very exuberant type praise. And I was just kind of like taken aback, like just like, wow, like, oh my gosh, like, not that it was a distraction, it was just more like, oh my goodness, like, there was just something about the way that she was worshiping, because that was her interpretation of worship, right? And I almost felt like, even what the pastor said, like, it was like, this is a time to respond. Like, how are you responding to this challenge that has been presented before us to seek justice, love mercy, walk humbly with your God? How are we living this out? How are we being refreshed in that, in the presence of God? And this is the time to do it. And as I was watching her worship and have this response to God, I felt like in my spirit, it just connected. And it was like, she is in her element. Like, she's totally in the zone, exactly what she was created to do. That's exactly how she was created, to say, I love you, back to God. And it just like hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, that's what God has called us all to do. Like, he has created us. We all have gifts, we all have talents, we all have dreams, we all have aspirations, we all have things that God has deposited in our heart. Like, scripture tells us that God has planted eternity in our hearts. So we just have this very unique ability from all the things that God created. I mean, God created the trees, God created mountains, God created the sunset, all these beautiful things. But in all of that, God placed eternity in our hearts. He gave us souls. He gave us spirits. He gave us his image. So if we are these image bearers, if we mirror him, so if we are a mirror, right? And he says, I love you. What's the mirror back? I love you too. That's the mirror back. And to me, that was so profound. I don't know about you, but I know that there's others like me that you struggle, or I know I have, with just kind of like that confidence to like step into the things that God has asked of me to do. And it just felt in that moment like it was like, yes, I love you too. And by me saying, I love you too, God, and I get the type of love that you have given me, I know exactly what to do. And it's to create alongside with you and really honing in on the things that God has placed within me. And one of those things has been the gift of communicating. In my case, I know everyone has different giftings, but God has given me, and I don't say this with like, oh man, like haughty and just like arrogant in any way. No, I say this so humbly, like just like, Lord, wow, like what a privilege, what an honor to be able to communicate the things of God in simple practical ways. And I really hope that that is really what you find here. You find a level of encouragement, you find a level of hope, and even practical ways on how to live out the Christian faith, live out the things that Scripture asks of us. And that to me was one of the most practical ways to do it, just to live it out and think of it like, how can I say I love you back? I love you too, God, today. How can I say I love you too, God, in my everyday life, with my family, with my kids? How can I say that at work? How can I say that in interactions with others, in my finances? How can I say that? In just every aspect of our life. How can it intertwine, right? How can it mirror what God has really deposited into me? And it just begins to be a natural flow out. Like it's not difficult. And when there is difficulty, like we get that refinement back in his presence, not in other things, but back in his presence. So like I said, it was just a small encouragement that I wanted to share on here. I feel like God's going to really help to unpack that thought, but it was just a small thought that I wanted to share with you and to encourage you to really take the moment today to pray that and ask, God, can you reveal to me how can I say I love you back to you? How can I say that back to you today? What's gonna fill your heart, because God is so good with us that he grants the desires of our hearts. And even in times when we are in waiting and having to be patient, he's good in so many different ways. But we also know that we have that ability to connect with God. We have the ability to bless God, and be that light in our homes, in our life, in our workplaces, and in all those ways where people can come away like blessed, like just like how I was in that worship service, like watching this gal, like she didn't do anything. I don't know, like it wasn't in a showy way, it wasn't in a way that was distracting. It was just, she was just so enamored and so like almost like it was overflowing out of her. And like I mentioned, it was just so inspirational. And I think that that's really what God desires in us, to cause that same inspiration in others. Because, and you think about it, like when you're in love, if you've been in love, I have 3 times with my husband and then with my 2 kiddos. It's just, there's just a love that you're just like, you can't help it, but it comes out of you, right? It comes out in your smile. It comes out when you talk about the person. Like you just, You cannot help it. It will just come out of you. It'll just burst out of you. So, like I mentioned, it was just a moment of encouragement. I hope it's something that blesses you, and that you can really take that moment today to connect with the Lord. Ask Him how He can share that I love you back.